What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Hockeytown University. You are here with me once again, Zach, and his beautiful co-hosts, Matt and Derek. Boys, happy hump day. Round two. Let's try again. Unfortunately, this is our second time recording this intro, so let's make sure that this works this time. Boys, how are we doing today? Reiterate yourselves.
Well, let's see what I said last time because it was very little because it's Wednesday, guys, and there is nothing going on. I work this Saturday and I'm very upset by this. But I get to see the boys after that. I just have to drive 3 hours to a different state that I don't care too much about, but my boy's there, so I guess I got to go down to it. It should be a good time. Matt, how you doing over there, buddy?
Well, I am doing fantastic. I don't really feel like doing my whole spiel that I already did, so I'm not going to do it. I just do want to say that I'm excited to go back down to Toledo. You're really good friends with someone and you care about them if you're willingly entering Ohio for them. So next time you think, oh man, he's only on this podcast because I pay him to be. No, friend. I'm here in the long run. I'm sticking it out with you. So yeah, gonna have a nice little boys weekend down there. Gonna rip it up. Every bar in Toledo is going to know our names. We're going to have our pictures on their wall of fame or wall of shame, depending on how you look at it. And should be a good time.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, boys. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun this weekend. So let's go ahead and jump into things. What do we got for you guys today? Well, before we go into that, just make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. Also, smash that like button. It makes that octopus make a smile instead of frown all the time. But if you're listening to us on Spotify, make sure you are hitting that follow button and you're rating us the 5 stars. It makes the smile even grow fonder and bigger. Fonder probably wasn't the word that I wanted to use. Either way, doesn't matter. So, what do we got in store today? Minimal Red Wings news. It's the offseason. It sucks. We know. We are a Red Wings podcast. For those of you that don't know that. Derek, too. Leslie and his flag. So we got Red Wings news, around the league news, and then each one of us today brought their own topics for Let's Play Game. And I'm sure you guys notice, based on what they are, from the title of this episode. So other than that, we do have 2 draft prospect profiles to cover for you today. Axel Sandin Pellikka, and Colby Barlow. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it, boys. Red Wings news, Dominik Kubalik and Moritz Seider are nominated for Male Player of the Year for the IIHF. And for those of you that don't know, 2 other players that were nominated are 2 highly regarded prospects coming up in this draft. Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli. Initial thoughts on this. You guys think that Mo Seider or Dominik Kubalik has a chance at winning it with those 2 studs in there? One at a time.
I mean, there's always a chance. Like, they produce really well in the actual juniors or the cup itself, and I say that there's a possibility that they make it in there. Are they going against someone who's, going 1 and 2 in the draft this year? Yeah, probably. It's happened. Can't really say anything against what they did, and I'm hoping that Connor Bedard doesn't throw up another little trophy or whatever he has in his shelf because he probably has too many already, but they did well, produced well for the team, did well for the Red Wings themselves. So what can you really say about that? So they did great. I'm pretty happy with what they did.
Yeah, they definitely have a chance to win this award, and I'd put him as a favorite as a Red Wings fan because, I'm pretty sure that Bedard and Fantilli are going to be monumental busts. Fantilli is going to have his career ruined by the Ducks. He's going to take 1 foot in Anaheim, and he's going to be like, you know what? I don't want to play hockey anymore. I just want to bum out on the beach and holler at some honeys on rollerblades and bikinis skating by me. And Bedard is going to pull Eric Lindros, and he's not going to play a single game for the Blackhawks. I kind of feel like Blackhawks fans are not only our biggest haters, but also our biggest supporters, because on that mock draft video, we did talk a lot of crap about the city of Chicago and their franchise, and you all came over, and credit to you guys, you gave us views, but you really did not let us get off with an easy one there. So, yeah, that's just a little pleasant for you guys. I think throughout the course of this podcast, I want every other fan base besides the Red Wings to hate us. They call it Detroit versus everybody for a reason. So we're already one of the 31 down. Only 30 more to go.
I think it's going to be a pretty easy thing for that to happen, especially with all of us talking nonstop.
Well, it's all in fun games too.
Yeah,
Like
I feel
it's all
good
for
about
fun,
it.
you know. Chicago hates us, we hate them. It's all about sports, you know. At the end of the day, sports talk is really fun. So let's have great conversations in those comment sections. But let's go ahead and move on since we're done with that. Oh, I really didn't give my piece. Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to choose between one of the two, I think Mo Seider deserves it a little bit more because he did end up getting a silver medal and he played a huge role for Team Germany. Going up against Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli. To be honest, from here, I really do not know, but I do think that Mo Seider does have a big shot at getting that nomination as the Male Player of the Year for sure. So let's go ahead and talk about the around the league news. Very minimal. We know that there's a bunch of stuff going on, but we're going to try and keep it minimal because of the 3 topics that we brought today. The NHL Combine started today. It started on the 4th. My apologies. Today is the 7th as we record. And it goes until the 10th. So it goes until Saturday. Leslie mentioned something about Connor Bedard meeting with Chicago Blackhawks already. I'm sure they're grooming him to be. I'll stop right there. Yeah, so they're probably really
Oh boy, don't get yourself in
they're
trouble.
probably really excited to get him. I'm sure they're telling him, you know, this is what we're going to do. Here's our plan. You know, you're not going to be by yourself. We just hope that you get 70 points in your first season. And then the next season, we expect you to get 100 points. Make it happen. The next Connor McDavid Bedard. Boys, thoughts on the Combine?
I just want to know how that interview goes with Chicago. Like, what do they even ask him? Hey, Connor, thank you very much for sitting down. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, when I was growing up, okay, you're hired. Like, what is he gonna say that makes them not want to draft him? Like, what is the point of even interviewing him? Like, you don't already know you're gonna get him.
I think it's kind of like it leans towards like what I said. They probably just give him like a not a script. How do I want to say this? Almost kind of like a game plan of what they want to do with him being in their franchise because he is now and forever going to be their number one priority until he's done playing hockey. So I'm sure that they probably talk about stuff like that. Just giving a little bit more of his background, where he comes from, his family, his friends, because those are the questions that they do ask in general. In terms of should we pick you or should we not pick you? They're definitely going to pick him. If you don't, I will laugh really hard. Don't screw this up, Chicago.
I mean, boys, let's be honest on this whole situation. They were there to ask him what his 5-star suite apartment wants to look like and what kind of pampered poodle he wants in there when he arrives, just because they're going to pamper him the fuck up just because he is going there, and that's all they have to say. Like, he is getting whatever he wants, and that's why they were there. Maybe to get to know him a little bit, but they just like, what kind of car do you want picking you up at the, airport off your private jet? Like, what do you need?
I can see that for sure being a thing, that's a good question. I don't know exactly how they end up doing the housing because these players, if you're a first overall pick, do you get a signing bonus?
Yeah, I think most draft picks get a signing bonus. I thought Marco Casper did last year, did he not? Or did he just get an entry-level contract?
You got me on that one.
I'm not sure. Maybe that's even something that happens on your first big boy contract. Could only be a first overall thing, but I thought it was pretty common for everyone to get one of those. Zachary is doing hella research now. He's consulting the web right now.
I was just typing stuff up. Not really. If someone does know, please let us know in the comment section. That would be really helpful. I don't feel like looking it up right now. I'll probably look it up after the episode, though.
Let us know. I'm definitely curious about that because I would definitely think it's like their first contract after the entry level. You get a signing bonus, and even then, it doesn't happen all the time. I don't really know. It's an interesting
we all
one.
know that after his first initial contract, it's going to be 10 million plus anyways. So whether there's a signing bonus in there or not, he's going to be
For
making
sure,
a boatload of money for sure. Way more than us. Connor Bedard, if you're listening to this or watching our podcast, we appreciate that first and foremost, but please buy us a podcast studio somewhere where we can all just meet and do this in the same location. We really do appreciate it. We will watch you. Maybe.
We will podcast you at least like 10 minutes an episode, every episode of just whatever you want us to podcast about.
Connor Bedard, if you...
And you know what,
Connor, if you are watching or listening, come on the pod. We'd love to have you, bro. I loved your little shit talk against Biz Nasty when you went to the game too. I thought that was great. Gary Bettman too. I think that was the most like enthusiasm I've ever seen out of that man ripping on Biz. It was just so funny. I loved it. Not exactly a topic that we were going to talk about, but let's go ahead and move on. So let's play a game, and we're going to play 3 games. I know I have 6 fingers up, but 3. So the first one. Who is going to be the better player overall? Connor Bedard or Connor McDavid? And before you guys answer that question, let's just go ahead and look at some of these stats. So let's go over to Connor McDavid. Let's see. When he was in the U16 Toronto Marlboros AAA, Derek mentioned of this, the U16 AAA League, in 88 games, he put up 79 goals, 130 assists for 209 points. So U16. So how do you compare that to Connor Bedard? Well, in 2018-19 for the West Van Academy Bantam Prep, which was U15, and then he played a little bit in the U16s. But let's just start off with the U15. In 30 games, he put up 64 goals and 24 assists for 88 points. When he played for the U18 team in 1920 in 36 games, 43 goals, 41 assists for 84 points. Initial reactions when you guys hear those numbers between Connor McDavid when he was 16 and Connor Bedard when he was 16. Who like, I guess the question is, who do you think is better at that point?
It doesn't make numbers don't compute at all. Like I don't in today's world of hockey, you don't have anybody like that unless you're looking at Connor Bedard or not Connor Bedard, Connor McDavid. They're both Connor. Like it's mixing me up a little bit. But unless you're looking at McDavid, there hasn't been anybody like that forever because Connor McDavid has only had like 2 seasons, I believe, so far in his NHL debut under 100 points as well. Like,
yeah, one of those he missed half the year.
Exactly.
Yeah, he broke his leg or something, right?
Like, it was his first year.
Yeah, and I think even in that season, he was still on like 100-point pace. So, yeah.
Yeah, he was. He was in 45 games. He put up 16 goals, 32 assists, and 48 points. So to backtrack before you guys go any further, I'm sorry, I probably should have done it this way. So Connor McDavid draft year in the OHL for the Erie Otters when he was the captain in 47 games, he put up 44 goals, 76 assists, and 120 points. So how do you compare that to Connor McDavid? Well, this year he played for the Regina Pats. He was the captain of the team for the WHL. In 57 games, he put up 71 goals, 72 assists, and 143 points. Initial reactions when you hear those numbers. Same thing from Derek, I'm assuming. But Leslie, what about you?
Trying to get your head like wrapped around those numbers is like thinking about space. You know how like when you think about like a black hole and how big it is and like how big the nearest star is from our sun, like it literally doesn't even make sense listening to those numbers. I mean, definitely shows you why he's the generational talent that he is. Yeah, he's I don't want to say that he's going to be the next McDavid, but he definitely comes close to it based on those numbers. You know, funny enough, if McDavid spends his whole career with the Oilers, they haven't gotten it done yet. I wouldn't be surprised if Bedard wins a cup before McDavid does. Like, honestly. I know Chicago's down in the dumps right now, but Edmonton's had Connor and Leon for what, like 7 years? 6 or 7 years at this point? They haven't gotten it done yet? I don't know. I could be completely wrong about that. Crazier things have happened. Maybe Edmonton gets relocated out of Canada and they go to like Oklahoma City or some shit, and then they win a championship. Maybe it's a Canadian effect. I don't really know. But yeah, it's hard to say who's going to have the better career there, who's going to put up more points. Every time I've watched McDavid, I can't help but think to myself, like, all right, this is it. This is the best player that we'll ever see. It's probably not true. There's going to be another McDavid that comes around and maybe exceeds him. But for right now, I don't see anyone being better than him. But Bedard gets pretty close. I think he does. He's for sure going to have several 100-point seasons. So
yeah, I agree with you 100%. The only thing that I see that's glaring for comparison, or who you can say who might have the better career overall, McDavid does have a 3-inch height on him, on Connor Bedard, and then also just only has 9 pounds on Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard is 5'10", 185 pounds, and he shoots right. McDavid shoots left, and I don't think the shooting really has anything to do with it, but shooting right definitely helps you out a lot, especially against the goalies. But Bedard, oh my god, dude, he is a thick bowl of oatmeal, my dudes. Oh my goodness. Like, he is a bowling ball. Like, he is basically like Radko.
Thicker than the Popeyes.
He is basically Radko Gudas with better hands.
That's where you could ever put that one.
Yeah. So talking about those numbers and then looking at their height, their weight, me personally, I really do think that overall, when both careers are done and you look back at the numbers, I think Connor McDavid will be the overall better player in terms of, I don't think just points, but I think in terms of, and this is tough to say right now, but in terms of leadership, I mean, he's been the captain for Edmonton. I believe he was the captain in his second season with the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, he was. So for Bedard, the Chicago Blackhawks can go in the same direction. I think that might be the wrong decision.
Well, to say though, just look who their captain is right now and who might not be there very soon.
Who?
Isn't it Tubbs?
Oh yeah, he might retire. Yeah.
Double this thing. I feel like he didn't even play like the entire season. I'm like, at this point, I feel like he's probably going to be gone soon. Not like gone, but just retire in general. He's old enough. He's at the point. It's like
then they'll be captainless. Right as Bedard gets
and that's not out of the ordinary.
Are we going to see another guy?
Yeah, and that's not out of the ordinary if they did want to go a whole year or even maybe 2 without a captain, and then you give him the C. You definitely want to see how he pans out, make sure that like nothing goes wrong. You want to make sure that you're surrounding him around the right players. So Chicago has a lot of work that they have to do, whereas you look at a team like the Oilers, they had McDavid, they had Draisaitl already. I'm pretty sure they still had Nail Yakupov, Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as well. So they had a pretty stacked team already. But then you look at Chicago and all the draft picks that they have and all the young players that they have coming up. So that's definitely going to help Connor Bedard in his own right. And it's tough, right? Because you say that, and Connor McDavid did have the help. So then by his second season, it was his first 100-point season. Do we think that based on where Chicago is right now, can we see Connor Bedard get to 100 points either in his first 2 seasons?
I mean, if he's producing the way he is right now and he does it at the same level in the NHL, yeah. I mean, it's not going to produce the same amount of points, but at the same time, you don't got to produce, what was it, 143, 145, whatever points?
153.
I mean, you pop up 105. Jesus, this is still insane. You pop up a little over 100, everyone's going to look at you like, okay, next generational sensation right there. Like, I could definitely see it happening. As you said, Zach, he is a big bowl of oatmeal or something like that.
Thick, big bowl of oatmeal for sure. Oatmeal is thick, and I hate oatmeal.
Definitely doesn't make it sound
oatmeal.
That's a whole.
Leslie, what about you, bud?
God, well, that's going to be a tough one. I mean, in his rookie year, I don't really see that happening because he's going to be on Chicago, and who outside of him is going to be even close to that level of talent on Chicago? Athanasiou? Maybe? I generally can't think of anyone else. So, teams that play against him are going to collapse on Bedard. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you're going into a game against the Blackhawks and your number one game plan is just, all right, let's take all 5 guys and only cover Bedard. I really wouldn't be shocked because there's nothing else on that team that you have to worry about. I mean, of course, they have some good prospects. We'll see who makes the team out of camp and who impresses. I know that Lucas Reichel is very good. That's like the only other player I can think of who's good, but doesn't have the track record that I can really reliably say he's going to be a star. But I don't know. He's a very talented kid. I could still see him getting anywhere as far as 65, maybe 70 points. I see him having a rookie year quite like Raymond did, with a lot less help than Raymond. So that kind of just shows you what kind of talent that he's going to be. I really think he can get 60 points single-handedly, and it's probably going to have to be single-handedly unless the Blackhawks can really revamp that team in this offseason.
So, and I know that the way that Chicago is built right now, and I know that is kind of unfair to Connor Bedard to compare him to McDavid. So let's just talk about them as players in general. I mean, we've all seen Connor McDavid play. He is just a big boy on the ice who does not take crap from anyone. He is hard to get off the puck. I mean, his dangles, his speed, and just his hockey IQ in general is just out of this world. Like, I firmly believe that Connor McDavid, and you can be as mad as you want about this when I say this, I truly do believe that Connor McDavid is better than Wayne Gretzky. Granted, that is a totally different era when Wayne Gretzky played. There was no butterfly. The goalies didn't know what the hell they were doing. But you look at what Connor McDavid has done and what he can continuously do. I mean, we could really see this guy put up 175 points. Every year, he just gets better and better and better. In 56 games, he put up 105 points. In 2020-21 in that shortened season due to COVID. That is freaking insane. And can we see a 5'10" Connor Bedard do something like that? He has all the same skills and attributes as a Connor McDavid does, but that height definitely has to scare you a little bit, where Leslie is right. Teams will have a huge red target on his back. Not saying that they're going to go out and just roughhouse him, but when you're a top rookie in the league, that's definitely what some players will do, especially the ones who don't care if you're Connor Bedard or if you're Connor McDavid.
Man, you send him out there with a third or fourth liner brew, he's going to get smacked around real quick just because that boy wants to get pushed up.
They should get Milan Lucic then.
You take out the good player, it's like, okay.
Milan Lucic then. Get him.
Or how about you sign, it almost feels dirty to even say this, but how about you sign Tyler Bertuzzi in the offseason? He's going to protect Bedard. I had to hold back vomit even saying that sentence, but it seems like a good idea, does it not?
I don't like it because it does sound like a good idea, so don't say that again because Chicago might steal that.
I'll try not to. I mean, it feels like I just said the C word out loud in front of my mother. Like, I actually feel disgusted I said that, but, it's out there, and I'm only saying it because there's a lot of truth behind it. I think that's a possibility they should really pursue. Just get the toughest guys you can. Get guys, maybe you get Max Domi back. Maybe Max Domi wants to re-sign there in the offseason. I know he's a pending UFA. Just go get guys that are tough to play against. Draft them in the draft. Maybe you have, I don't even actually know where they're picking again in the first and second round, but whoever's down there, get the biggest competitor, the biggest tough guy, get some big defensemen. Just do whatever you can to essentially give this kid like a bodyguard squad, like how Floyd Mayweather walks around all the time with all his bodyguards that are like a foot taller than him. Just go and do that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what they need to do. They need to build him around surrounding players that are big, scary, and tough to play against. You guys are exactly right in that sense. I feel like we're kind of getting a little off topic based on the topic of who's going to be better overall. So I guess we can kind of end it with this. What do you guys think? Who's going to be better? Me personally, looking at it, I do think that the height plays a huge role into it. And I think that it's going to take Chicago a couple years to be where the Edmonton Oilers were. And like I said, I think that that's unfair to Connor Bedard, but I truly do think that Connor McDavid, at the end of both of their careers, is going to end up being the better point producer and just all around the better player that we all know and love. But that's nothing against Connor Bedard. I think that he's going to be the second greatest player that will ever get to see play this game, in our generation at least. Boys, what do you guys think?
Well, I'm gonna say right now, did you pick Zach Connor Bedard or Connor McDavid? Because you broke up a little bit right when you said your choice.
I picked McDavid.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard, but again, both are Connor, so it gets really hard. But I am going to go with the long shot here, so everybody come back and listen to this episode in like 5 years. I'm going to go with Bedard just because I think he might just have the skill set to move forward with like the NHL league that is right now and how it's like set up. I feel like might be just the person to get there. I don't know what I'm going off of. I'm just basing off what he's done non-NHL, just in general. So it could be a total bust, but I'm going to go with Bedard.
I think what you're saying is right. Like the NHL has been changing a lot recently, right? Like we talked about it in previous episodes where goal scoring just keeps on going up and up and up, and Connor Bedard has done nothing but tried to emulate that, and that's what he does. So there is a good chance that when he comes into the league, he could be that player within 3 years where he just explodes out of nowhere and gets 150 points per season. But it all comes down to the general management of the Chicago Blackhawks. Leslie, go ahead. What do you think, bud?
All right, so before I answer, are we asking who's going to have the better career or who will be the better individual player? Because I have two different answers.
Let's go with both then.
All right, so as far as career, I'm going to have to go with Bedard because he is not going to a team that was ran by Peter Chiarelli and then went to Ken Holland. So, yeah, he'll probably have a better chance of winning a cup. But as far as player goes, I don't see how anyone is going to be better than McDavid. Like I said earlier, he's going to get there. He's going to be really close, but McDavid is just it's a whole nother level. I mean, we call him McJesus for a reason. Like, it's literally like, it's almost like one of the Avengers, like, just like decided to start playing hockey instead of saving the world and fighting Thanos. Like, that's what I feel like I'm watching when I watch Connor McDavid. So, yeah, I have two different answers for that, but there you go.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's a wrong answer. We all could. I mean, they both could be like, what if both of them ended their careers literally in the next 5 years? Then you're just like, oh, we'll just never know. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Derek, this is a nice little segue for you based on your topic, right, bud?
Actually, yeah, you're actually pretty right on that one because my topic kind of goes into what a lot of people probably have already seen on all your social media. This little Chicago Penguins Bedard wormhole, I would like to call it. Jumping down this little rabbit hole of fun. Most of you probably have seen this a lot, but I'm going to read straight from it. Shout out to whoever posted this originally because everybody has posted it 5,000 times now. But it's still pretty truthful. So we're going to go with that last game that Chicago Blackhawks faced the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pretty normal game. You would think Penguins are going to destroy them, of course. They don't. Chicago beats them somehow 5-2 with their only second win in 14 games in the final of their season. Like here, I will read straight from this beautiful thing just because shout out to whoever did this. You're great. The Blackhawks didn't randomly win the game in the Pittsburgh on April 11th, which was one of just 2 wins in Chicago's last 14 games. Guess what happened? The Florida Panthers wouldn't have missed the playoffs, and the Penguins would have been in it. And we can assume that the Pittsburgh Penguins are not going to have the same run that Florida Panthers have. This miracle of chances that's going on right now. Obviously, going to Game 3, not looking great for them, but they're in the playoffs and in the finals going for the Stanley Cup. So I don't think the Penguins would have made it that far. And again, if Chicago didn't win that game with everything that's going on right now, the fact that the Panthers are in the finals, and assuming the odds work the same way in the draft that it worked for Chicago where they got number 1, that would be the Columbus Blue Jackets in that first seed right now instead of Chicago. I'm just saying, I might be even more biased just because it's Chicago who still got Bedard. I'm not saying they got him yet, but I'm just saying, number 1 in the draft, who you're going to pick, I feel like there might be some collusion here. I don't know who paid off who with the Blackhawks and Pittsburgh here, but you know what? Someone paid off somebody, and I'm not happy about it. Guys, what are your thoughts on what this rumor might entail? Not really a rumor. It's kind of fact at this point.
I do kind of have a hypothetical that I would love to throw out there that I did mention to someone off air, and I don't think that I mentioned it to you boys. However, do you guys remember the Chicago Blackhawks before they got Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane? They were bad.
They won like 10 games a year.
They were almost relocated, and then they got Toews and Kane and then went on to win the 3 Stanley Cups that they did. Then the whole Kyle Beach thing comes out, and they are basically just the laughing stock of the NHL. Not even the laughing stock. They are just like the grime of the NHL, like the things that went on during that time. I mean, it was bad. Like, you're firing the Florida Panthers, Joel Quenneville, head coach. You're letting go the whole entire upper management. It was just a huge ordeal. So then, what does Gary Bettman in the league do? Oh, well, we don't want Chicago to be in the similar situation that they were in before Kane and Toews being an original 16 and no one goes and watches their games. Why don't we just give them Connor Bedard? What do you guys think of that hypothetical?
The draft is rigged.
Leslie,
I agree with him. Honestly, I'm going to take this hypothetical even one further. So at the end of this, assuming all this happens and the odds stay the same, the Blue Jackets would have number 1 and they could take Bedard. Do you think if they were able to draft Bedard, they would have hired Mike Babcock? Probably not.
No.
I don't think they would. Would you really want your first coach as probably the most important player in your franchise? Do you want to play for Mike Babcock in your first year? No, you don't. I think if you're a general manager, I think if you're the owner of the team, I think if you're the teammates, you don't want that guy playing with him. So I don't think that would have happened. Yeah, this is kind of a crazy hypothetical, though. Like, it's just the stars have aligned. It's like a perfect syzygy from the hockey gods. I think the one thing that remains true in this scenario is no matter if it's Florida or the Penguins playing the Bruins in the first round, the Bruins are still going to be frauds and blow a 3-1 lead because that's just what they do. They're frauds. They suck. They're the worst team in NHL history. But yeah, it's hard to say that the Pens wouldn't have the same run as the Panthers. Like, they still have Malkin, Sid, and Letang. As long as they have those 3 guys, I'm not surprised at whatever they can do. I didn't think they'd win back-to-back in 16-17. They did it. I didn't think they'd beat the Red Wings in 09 to ruin them going back-to-back. They did that. I've just learned from watching hockey for the last, I don't even know, 15, 20 years, however long Sid's been in the league. Don't count him out. When he's in, he can make things happen. So it's crazy though. I mean, like this game against the Blackhawks and Penguins might be the most influential regular season game in the last 5 or 10 years. Like, it's actually crazy what's come out from that. So yeah, just kind of proves how random the NHL is sometimes. How one thing could go another way, and there's a whole bunch of sequence of events. Yeah, maybe some people say it's rigged. I think Derek thinks it's rigged, and I'll agree with him too, because I don't really know anything else to think. But Yeah, pretty crazy hypothetical
No,
there.
but I think you're right, Leslie. You kind of hit the nail on the head by saying that, this is probably one of the most unexpected, weirdest things to ever happen in NHL, other than the Wayne Gretzky trade, where the trade tree literally lasted up until like 2 or 3 years ago. It finally ended, where all the pieces finally landed in the spots where it was done and over with. Other than that, I really can't think of anything else. I mean, this probably has to be the weirdest thing that has ever happened in NHL. I mean, like Derek said, I mean, all the Penguins had to do was win that game and they could make it into the playoffs. They lost 5-2 against one of the worst teams in the whole entire league. And I'm pretty sure the Pittsburgh Penguins, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think they lost a couple games in a row at the end there. I mean, in general, I just think that they did not look that good at all. Granted, they had a really bad general manager at the time who really just hurt their whole entire roster. Now they got Kyle Dubas. Let's see what he can do. But irregardless, I will not agree with you, Leslie. I do think that if Boston were to play against the Penguins, I think Boston probably would have beaten them.
Yeah, but that's just because you're not on the level of hater that I am, and once you ascend to that level, you'll see things in a different light.
Who do you hate more, Boston or Pittsburgh? Because I hate the ever living hell out of Pittsburgh.
Jeez, man.
I mean, that's
I think I'd have to go with Boston. Honestly, I hate them with a passion, mostly just because they're in our division and they're in a playoff spot, which means we can't be. And look at what they did this year; they completely blew it. The Red Wings got in, we wouldn't have blown a 3-1 lead. Maybe we get swept, but we wouldn't have a 3-1 lead blown. But I don't know. 2009 was a long time ago. I don't really care anymore. I was 13 when it happened. And also later that summer, I went to the Galapagos on a nice little vacation with my grandpa. So I was sad for like maybe 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm hanging out with giant tortoises. What even happened 2 weeks ago? I don't even remember what happened in that Stanley Cup final.
Good for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to finish this topic off, but like just the whole entire scenario in general, like I said, it is just the strangest thing that I think that the NHL has ever happened to itself. I mean, yeah, if Chicago wouldn't have won that game, they would have been the worst team in the league. And they would have ended up with the 3rd overall pick. That's how the ping pong balls fell. So, would you guys rather?
And we got to remember too.
Sorry, Derek. No, you're
Sorry,
good.
Zach.
Would you rather see Connor Bedard with Columbus, or does it really not matter at this point? Do you want him in Ohio with me? I would have liked that because I would have gone to the Columbus games. Or do you like him being in Chicago?
I'd like that for you. That'd be cool for you. I don't care where the hell he is if it's not Detroit. Let me just say that.
Fair.
Yeah, Chicago is definitely the worst option there. I hate that it's Chicago, but I wouldn't care if it's any of the, whatever it was, 15 other teams that were in the lottery. If it's not Detroit, I do not care.
What about you, Derek?
Yeah, Leslie said it all. Like, what does it even matter to me at that point? Like, I mean, it's like if it's anyone underneath us, that means, well, I'd say anyone under like the last 6 that are in that area in the draft lottery. You probably need them more than we did, anyways, because you're atrocious. I don't want it to be Chicago, because shout out to all the Chicago listeners, but fuck the Blackhawks. So I just don't want anything good for them anymore. Like, you got all your Stanley Cups, you got your King, you finished everything out. Just go back to what Zach was talking about back when, like, you guys were about to literally have to relocate, and I'm like, peace out.
Let's move over to our next topic. You have me dead right now. Oh my god, Leslie, speak up.
Where do you guys think the Blackhawks were relocated if they had to?
Atlanta.
I think they go to the moon.
No,
Mars.
Arizona after the Coyotes.
Arizona already owns the moon. No, they're going to Atlanta.
That would have been perfect. Put another team in Arizona, so when the Coyotes fail, we just have another team in Arizona, and then in 20 years they can fold their franchise too.
All right.
I love it. That's perfect.
All right, before I start sweating too hard, Leslie, speak on your topic, please.
The arena gets built in Tempe, and then the Blackhawks move
Leslie,
in.
speak on your topic, please. Please, good sir.
Oh, it's my
It's your
turn?
turn now. Yes, sir.
Alrighty, well, we had a good bit of news yesterday in the NHL. We had that rare trade during the Stanley Cup playoffs that you don't really see too often. And even more fun, it was a three-way trade. So, everybody loves three-ways. We love three-ways on Hockeytown University. Yeah, so the big piece involved in this, probably Ivan Provorov. I don't really know who you would say is the biggest piece, but basically Provorov went to Columbus for their first round pick that was from LA this year when they dealt Jonathan Quick to or no, it wasn't Quick. It was
Korpisalo.
let me look at this. Korpisalo, thank you. Korpisalo and Gavrikov when they went to LA. So it was that pick. Then they spent their own second round pick next year for Ivan Provorov. And LA kind of acted like a little bit of a middleman in this situation. So they're retaining 30% of Ivan Provorov's salary, but in return, they sent over to Philly a cap dump in Cal Peterson and Sean Walker, who I believe is a depth defenseman. I'm not really sure what exactly he does over there. And one of their young D prospects, I believe he plays right side, Helga Grans, and a second round pick. So, yeah, pretty big trade. I know that there's a lot of moving parts there, and I tried my best to recap it, but I am not the human embodiment of Cap Friendly. You can go check that trade out on Cap Friendly. It'll make a lot more sense to you guys than my marble mouth mush brain. But yeah, pretty big trade. Really good one for Danny Briere's first trade in Philadelphia. Gets most would say a bad contract. I think it is a bad contract, but Peterson is still young. I think just with the situation that Philadelphia is in, they need to get a little bit younger and take on some bad contracts or just players that teams don't want anymore in return for future assets, because that's really what it's all about, is all the draft picks and the prospects that they got in this deal. This trade kind of indicates to me that Briere finally recognizes that the team just needs a complete teardown because the future looks very bleak for them. And I think this is a good move if you're going to go in that direction, and it's a good start to a potential rebuild. So it would definitely indicate to me that Philly's not done. They're open for business. I would not be shocked if there's another trade by them at the draft. I know that Carter Hart is still on the draft. Or sorry, not the draft. I know that he's still on the trade market. I don't really know any rumors surrounding that. I don't know if there's any favorite teams that he would go to. I've heard Buffalo's in the mix. I've heard Montreal's in the mix. I have even heard that Detroit is in the mix. I don't really see how that would make sense for Detroit. I guess it would. I mean, you already have Husso and you have Kosa, but I wouldn't rule it out if there's a favorable trade to make. Yeah, then sure, why not? But yeah, this is kind of starting the off-season trade rumors, getting the wheels turning for the NHL, and I think there's going to be more to come. And if I'm Steve Yzerman, I'm going to be calling Briere on some potential trades for Carter Hart. I think Konechny could be a really good target for them. Maybe there's a trade there for a player that Steve Yzerman doesn't really want to have around anymore. Sherrod. Yeah, you never know. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because it's really the first little bit of news outside of who's playing in the Stanley Cup final. And after game 2, this is kind of looking like it's not going to be a great final. So it's a nice little bit of news to refresh everything and kind of just pushes into the offseason.
Yeah, so with this trade, Leslie's right. LA did this for a cap dump on Cal Peterson. As far as Sean Walker, I wouldn't necessarily call him a depth piece. He unfortunately was for LA. He can play both left and right, but I'm pretty sure he shoots right. So that was one of the players that I thought that the Red Wings could have traded for, considering that we have a bunch of left-handed D and they had a bunch of right-handed Ds. However, I understand why the LA Kings did this. By doing this whole entire trade scenario, they were able to save themselves over $5.5 million. For the Flyers, all they had to do was gain $900K. They got Cal Peterson, Sean Walker, Helge Grans, who's a really good prospect, a 2024 second round pick from the Kings, a first from the Kings that came from the Blue Jackets, and then another second round pick for 2024, but could also potentially be for 2025 based on the conditions. And that's up to Columbus to decide after the first round next year, is what it says. And then for the Blue Jackets, and here's something that I think that a lot of people might not realize, is that Columbus was actually supposed to be a decent team this year. I would say that they probably should have been a lot, kind of like how we were. They had a lot of...
They for sure should not have been a lottery team.
Yeah, they just had a lot of injuries. Obviously, the coaching situation wasn't that great. That's why they went out and got Mike Babcock for whatever reason. I think that's dumb. Still, I'll hold on to that. But I think...
Wait. Is that a real thing yet, or is that still up in the air? Because I didn't see anyone say that it was full throttle that Mike Babcock was there yet.
Well, I don't know if he signed a contract, but formally he has been hired by them. So I don't really know how that all works. I know in the NFL there's been some times where a coach commits to a team and then a day later is like, you know what, I actually don't want to coach for you. But it seems like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they could still be working out the whole logistics of the contract.
Sorry, Zach.
So we'll just have to wait and see, give it some time. But overall, looking at Philly, does this scream full rebuild now? Because they're taking Cal Peterson. Cal Peterson's all right. They still have Carter Hart. So now they have to trade Carter Hart unless they want to retain some of Cal Peterson's contract. But other teams probably want Carter Hart because I don't want to say this when it'd be wrong. So yeah, Cal Peterson's older than Carter Hart. So a lot of teams probably want the younger goaltender who probably has still somewhat of an upside to him. Where Cal Peterson, his best season was in 2020-21 when he played 35 games.
Never probably.
And he put up a 2.89 save percent or goals against and a 911 save percentage. Ever since then, he's been below a 9 for the last 2 seasons. So that's pretty bad. But Carter Hart hasn't really been that much better. But granted, he's been on a bad Philly team. We saw what he's done before. And I do think that that's there. I mean, look at Sergei Bobrovsky. Every year, it's hot, then he's cold the next year. Hot, then cold. Carter Hart pretty much just needs a new change of scenery. Would I love to get Carter Hart? Yes. What's the price for it? I don't know. But you look at a similar, I think a good comparison for a Carter Hart would be Peter Mrazek. While Peter Mrazek was a little bit older when we traded him to Philly, we got a 3rd-round pick for it. Now, if you came to me and told me, hey, you want Carter Hart? I'll take a second, and then I'll take Amadeus Lombardi. Would you do it? And before you answer that, I want you guys to understand that I understand that we do have Husso and that we do have Kosa, but then once Husso is out of the picture, if he doesn't end up working out this season, you at least have Carter Hart. You can re-sign him for a couple years, get like a 1-year backup, and just keep on letting Kosa marinate down in the pipeline. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would pay that price, but I think what we all need to understand is it's not going to be that price. I think they're going to be asking more than you're comfortable with. I don't think that if I were Danny Briere, I would want to trade Carter Hart. During a rebuild, you kind of need to keep some good players. And Carter Hart, I would honestly say, is their best player. That'd be like Detroit trading Larkin in 1920. Like, let's just sell out everything of value and just get whatever we can in future assets. I don't really see why Philly would do this. I think as long as you have Peterson, I don't even think their plan was to have Peterson be the starter. Maybe compete for the backup job of whoever else is there in the AHL for their team. But I don't know. Maybe they're going to go full throttle with Carter Hart. They're not going to do it unless it's for the right deal for them. And I think that right deal is going to be a little more at a premium than teams are willing to spend. Detroit could definitely get a trade done depending on what it is, and I wouldn't mind it at all. But I'm a little afraid of what that price might be.
Now, there is a very good chance that they could keep Carter Hart. I mean, they still have plenty of cap space where they have just under $7 million. And then you just have them play 50-50 split.
Yeah.
You could easily do that. But I guess going back to my original question, I'm sorry, Leslie, if you did answer it, but so is this signaling a rebuild for the Flyers? And you can answer this too, Derek. I think that this does signal a rebuild. But let's remember that they have Sean Couturier, who's been on injured reserve all year. Cam Atkinson as well. So then you got those two players coming back. But I do firmly believe that this is the start of a rebuild for the Flyers, and it's about damn time. Hence Lizzo.
This this might be the beginning of a retool that goes into a rebuild, because what you said about Couturier and Atkinson, I don't know how much term they have left, but if they're coming off injuries, you could still trade them if they're going to be healthy for next season. You're going to get a price for them. You still have Kevin Hayes on that team at whatever. I think he has like 4 more years left, or 3 years at whatever he's making. Maybe you want to get rid of him too if there's a team out there. Honestly, maybe Chicago was a good idea. I could see him go to Chicago. They definitely have a lot of assets they could pay you. But yeah, I think this is definitely the early stages of a rebuild. I really feel like this coming season, you really, if you're the Flyers, you have to just suck. You just have to be bad. You have to go after Celebrini or Yzerman or whoever else is going to be up at that number 1 slot. And maybe you have to do it again the year after that. I really feel like they need to do their Yzer plan, their Briere plan. I don't have a good nickname for that yet. I haven't brainstormed it enough yet. But yeah, I think they need to just tear it down now, and this is the first step to doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you said those names of those players: Kevin Hayes, Travis Konechny. They got Joel Fabry, Owen Tippett too. But like, they don't have like who's their best. Like, they don't even have a Dylan Larkin. Who is that? Travis Konechny at that point. Like, that would be probably the closest one. Maybe Sean Couturier actually would probably be the closest one. But he's 30 years old, and
I'd say Couturier.
Yeah, he's 30 years old, and he's signed until like 2030, I think is what it's showing me here, because I can't see how much further it goes. But yeah, you were right on the spot, Leslie. Kevin Hayes has 3 more years at just over $7 million. Travis Konechny has 5.5 for the next 2 years. Cam Atkinson has 2 more years at 5.875. I mean, these players aren't really game-breaking players. They're not a Dylan Larkin type. They're not a Connor Bedard. They're not a Connor McDavid. They're not even like, I don't know. I guess the best comparable for me would be like, you got a bunch of Tyler Bertuzzi's on your team. To me, is what it looks like and what it sounds like. They might not be like Tyler Bertuzzi, but they're going to put up the similar points as like a Tyler Bertuzzi. Maybe Sean Couturier can give you 70 points, but that's going to be your best player. So you're basically like the Red Wings on how we were 3 years ago. But who knows? Derek, is this a rebuild for Philly or no?
Excuse me, guys. I apologize. But yes, I would have to.
Like, at this point, it's Philly. They're doing terrible. Even if they get 2 guys back who are great after, like Leslie said, coming back from an injury, I heard that part before I had to go take my pee break. But yeah, it has to be a rebuild for them, because it looks like pretty much at least 10 teams in the NHL are pretty much at their point right now too, where they're just trying to do what they can. But they just got to start getting in what they can get in at this point, because they got to start trade. I don't even know what kind of picks they have anymore, because they're just not looking too great. So yes, I would have to agree. It definitely looks like a rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their draft picks this year in 2023, they have their own pick, which is 7th. and then they have I think it's the 22nd overall pick for the Kings. Then next year, they have their own pick, and then they have the Florida Panthers pick, which is conditional, it looks like. Let's see. Let's click on this and see exactly what it says here. That was the Ben Sherratt trade, actually. So the condition is, let's see, the Panthers' first round pick in 2022 is top 10 protected, blah, blah, blah. Retain 2020. Okay, so then the Panthers retain their 22nd first round pick. They will no longer own their 23 first round pick, and Montreal will instead get their 2024 first round pick. Montreal receives Florida's 2023 first round pick. Wow, this is very confusing. Yeah, you guys can go on Cap Friendly and look at this because this is I'm not very good at reading today, apparently. But yeah, okay, so it sounds like that it's all, well, Leslie said a little retool and then going into a rebuild, which that's right too, right? They're retooling, but also going into a rebuild, right? Where they're probably going to keep majority of these players, these better players that they have, but they're going to do it kind of like how the Red Wings did, where down the line as time goes on, they're going to keep trading away these guys until they have the team exactly that they want and surround those players. But yes, Macklin Celebrini, Cole Iserman, that's what the Philadelphia Flyers should be reaching for, honestly, at this point. You got to stop being in like that murky middle where we're kind of worried about being in now too, because we get no draft luck. So final thoughts on this one? Billy sucks.
Yeah, I think pretty much just what they got to do is sell off your older players still have term, keep your younger players, and go forward with that. You know, keep your Joel Farabees, keep your Owen Tippett's, keep your trying to think who else they have. Your Bobby Brinks, your Cam Yorks, everybody else. I'm honestly a little scared how much I know about the Flyers and their players. But yeah, just keep all the young guys with potential and ship off the older guys who can get a return. And you should come out on the other side, and hopefully things will be looking up in Philly. I know that that's a town that if you're a bad team, your life is hell. So you better hope that you get better, because my God, that's basically just pretty much living in Vancouver after the riots in 2011. That's pretty much exactly how that city is at all times.
All right. Well, I ain't got nothing else on those topics, so let's go ahead and move on to our draft prospect profiles. Which one do you guys want to do first? I'll give you guys the choice. You want to do Pellikka or do you want to do Barlow?
I feel like Leslie was really excited about Pellikka, so let's start with that one.
All right. Yeah, we can start with that one. So Axel Alex Sandin Pellikka was born March 11th, 2005, 18 years old, defenseman, right-handed, 5'11", 181 pounds. Currently plays out of the Swedish Hockey League. He did bounce around in all three of his leagues that he was in. He started out, well, technically he actually didn't. They haven't put down that he played in the J18 National League, but he didn't play a single game, no points. So then he played in the J20. In 31 games, he put up 16 goals, 20 assists, and 36 points. That's pretty good for a 17-year-old playing in there. And then you get him over into the SHL in 22 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Now, to me, I know that those numbers don't scream out to you guys or anyone listening, but when I hear and I see those numbers and I see what kind of path he's going on, he probably was just doing, okay, I probably shouldn't say, I was going to say the bare minimum, but he was like refining his game in those 22 games and being able to understand the pace of the game a lot better and what it's like to play against men, because we've seen it time and time again with the Red Wings, right? Where Steve Yzerman goes out and gets these players that are in the SHL or the J20. They take a year or two, let them develop there, and then they basically come over to the Red Wings prospect pipeline, whether if that's the Griffins or the Red Wings, and it's like that they never even left the Swedish Hockey League. So I'll let you guys kind of take it over here with Axel Sandin Pellikka instead of hearing my voice.
All right, well, I got to pull up my notes on him on my phone because my computer crashed and I lost all my notes, so luckily I took a photo of it for a backup, but here we go. there's a lot to like about Sandin Pellikka. I understand people's appeal over Reinbacher. He's a lot bigger, a lot more physical. He maybe not necessarily plays defense better, but he can quarterback a power play. Me personally, I put Sandin Pellikka over him. I think he's the best D-man in this draft. He's so good that I would consider him at number 9. I don't really think that's going to happen, but I would consider it. I think he's a really special talent. He can quarterback a power play. He has very, very high hockey IQ, very smart player. He is probably one of the better skaters in this draft. His full out stride isn't exactly the best. I mean, it's not bad, but he's been playing against men in this league, so you kind of see him get a little bit exposed for being smaller and younger and less physical, I guess you could say. But yeah, his edge work is tremendous. Like, he can just step around another defender, another forward, and get in transition off of that. So definitely some impressive skating there. His passing is just insane. Like, he is literally just like tossing lasers up the ice, tape to tape. I don't even know how he does it. Maybe the bigger ice is easier to do stuff like that. I don't really know. Maybe you have more space. But yeah, that's definitely one of his strengths is passing. I actually wanted to mention with his point total in the league that he was playing in, the J20. Was it? Yeah, it was the J20. His 16 goals and 36 points there. He led all defensemen in that league, not just rookies, but all defensemen in goals as an 18-year-old. That's pretty insane. So definitely a great player there. I could see him being a little bit like Quinn Hughes. I've heard people compare him to Erik Karlsson. I think that's a little bit unfair. I see where they're coming from, but you're giving him a really, really, really high bar to cross there. But yeah, he's going to be a very good player. I personally don't really see him being a target for Steve Yzerman just based on his size and his frame. Hi, Ellie. Yeah, I don't personally see him being a target for Yzerman. He's not the type of player that he usually drafts when he's drafting defensemen. He wants the defenseman to be very big, very intimidating. Yzerman kind of drafts like that hot girl on Tinder that looks at one of her matches, and it's like, yeah, he's good looking. He's got a good job, lives in a nice area, has a nice family, but he's only 5'10". I'm going to have to pass. That's kind of how he looks at some of these prospects. But to me, I think Sandin Pellikka could be an exception to that rule. He could break that mold. I just think that he has a whole lot of upside. I really feel like he's going to be a star. I've kind of made my thoughts on Reinbacher on this podcast pretty clear. I don't really know what his upside is in the NHL. There's Reinbacher fans there. There's Sandin Pellikka fans there. I personally think Sandin Pellikka is better. And, you know, if Yzerman takes it at 9, don't be surprised. You heard it here first. I would love it.
I'll let you go, Derek.
I mean, Leslie. But yeah, Leslie, I agree with you. I'm like, his skating and shooting, or his skating, skating, shooting, and passing, like all prime, especially his skating and shooting, passing, everything's great. Oh my god, skating and his passing are what really popped out to me. Like, with his skating alone for a defenseman, everywhere I looked, everyone just kept calling him an offensive defenseman, and he really is. Like, I can see that kid literally jumping up on forwards if a team needs him and just popping back to defense when they need him back there. It's like, he's so quick on his feet. He has such great maneuvers. His stick handling is great. I mean, it does have to do a lot with his speed. It looks like he's able to cut those edges, which gives you a better maneuvering of what you're doing with your stick. Connor Bedard and Connor McDavid both are very good pinpoints on what he's doing out there, because he has the exact same skill as they do with that. Just because of his quickness and the edges he has, he can skate through all the defensemen out there. And when he's passing out there, his head's up like 24/7. His like knowledge of the ice and where players are, 100%. I love it. And the fact to go off what Zach said earlier, when he only played 22 games and he got a minor amount of points in the SHL, he also only averaged 8 minutes a game. So he wasn't really even playing all that much. He was pretty much just out there getting the experience at that time. Again, he was only 17 playing with full grown men, so I'm pretty sure no one wanted to kill him. But at the same time, he got the good experience that he needed out there. So
Yeah, and that's the similar situation that Lucas Raymond was in too. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, you're drafting him fourth. He only played like 8 minutes and he put up like 5 points." But that's what they do in the SHL. If you're too good for the J20, you got to get bumped up. And at that point, you just got to allow them to learn the system that you're trying to utilize and then let him understand what it's like playing on that ice and how he needs to develop his game. And that's exactly what they're doing with Axel Sandin Pellikka over there for Skellefteå, AIK. I'm probably botching that name, so I apologize. I'm not good with that language that they speak over there and how they phrase everything. But yeah, no, I mean,
That would be Swedish.
well, yeah, sure, yeah, my bad. But
That language they speak over there
but
in Sweden.
These Matt and Derek are both right. For me, I'm with Leslie. I mean, these boys can attest to this, that I, ever since the World Championships, have been pounding on the table for Axel Sandin Pellikka. I love absolutely what he brings to the game. I mean, in that tournament alone, in 7 games, he put up 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points. And then overall for the U18 Sweden team, all international junior, in 19 games, he put up 5 goals, 16 assists, and 21 points. That's pretty good. That's over a point per game player right there as a right-handed shooting defenseman. Now, looking at it from a Red Wings perspective, you just moved on from Philip Hronek, okay? You have the 9th overall pick. Am I going to take Axel Sandin Pellikka there? If you would have asked me during the World Championships, I would have said yes in a heartbeat. Now I'm kind of backing off a little bit based on how everything is starting to look now. I mean, we're getting all these different rankings and like who's going to have the higher ceiling, who's going to have the not lowest floor, right? Because you got to look for those players who have the highest ceiling. I think personally, Axel Sandin Pellikka has a way higher ceiling than David Reinbacher does. Both players have their things that they have to work on. However, I like the offensiveness that Axel Sandin Pellikka brings. And in terms of his size, I'm not worried about him being 5'11", 181 pounds. He will get bigger, but we already have so many big defensemen. Do we really need another one? I don't think so. I mean, I know we made the joke that you must be over 6'1" to play on the Red Wings, but I mean, this type of talent that this kid has, I mean, it just screams Yzerman and Red Wings to me, ear in and ear out. Like the type of style of game that he plays, his skating is just phenomenal. And we keep on talking about that. The Red Wings need really good skaters. And this kid literally could be, this kid can, I should say this too. He could quarterback a power play for you. And I know that we have Mo Seider doing that. Mo Seider isn't, no dig on him. He isn't the best at it, but he does a good job at it. Axel Sandin Pellikka, if you threw him in there, man, you're all set there. His puck distribution, his passing, like you guys mentioned, his skating. I mean, it's almost like that you're making Jake Wallman and Mo Seider have a baby together and he becomes Axel Sandin Pellikka. The way that Jake Wallman moves with the puck and dekes people out, Axel Sandin Pellikka can do that too. So imagine if you have Jake Wallman, Mo Seider on your top, then you get like William Wallander on the left, put him back on the left, and you got Axel Sandin Pellikka, or you could put Johansson on the left. It doesn't even matter at this point. I think that is an amazing top 4 right there. If you're the Red Wings, if you can move up from that 17th pick to like 11th, 12th or something, and Axel Sandin Pellikka is there, I would do that in a heartbeat. I love what this kid brings, and I do think that the 9th pick needs to be a forward, whether that's a center or a left winger. Then you need to go right-handed shooting defenseman. Because you can go out and find those in free agency right now and just kind of wait and be like, well, yeah, we know that this draft isn't really deep with defensemen. We could just wait until the other drafts. I know next year's drafts has quite a bit of defensemen in it. So who knows what the ceiling is on a lot of those players. We'll just have to wait and see. But we know that this draft is super deep. I mean, we're now on our 14th. This is the 13th technically player that we're talking about. And we could make a case for this guy making it in the top 10 if we really wanted to. And he very may well could. One GM might be like, oh, I like what he has. He has a higher ceiling than Reinbacher does. And he goes like 6th, 7th, 8th. No one would even bat an eye. Maybe based on his size, be like, oh, you could have gotten Reinbacher, who's 3 inches taller. Big whoop-de fucking do. Who cares? Have you seen the way he skates? And the way he shoots the puck? Okay, I'm done. All right. But yeah, no, I agree with everything on you guys. Just needs a little bit to work on. Maybe just get a little stronger. Work on your defense a little bit. We appreciate the offense. But we don't want another Filip Hronek who brings a lot offensively, but needs help on the defensive end for someone to cover for him if he does blow an assignment. So, final thoughts on Axel Sandin Pellikka. Would you guys take him at 9, or would you try to wait for him to fall at 17, or are you trying to move up?
Oh, I'm waiting till 17. That's for sure. I know how much you love him, Zach, but not what I'm gonna get with our 9th pick. I would have to say, even though he is a very good defenseman, but he's just a little too much of an offensive defenseman for me to want to pick him with our first pick this year.
Well, if you're waiting for him to fall at number 17, you're going to be forced to pick a different player because there's no chance he gets to number 17. You're going to have to trade up for him, and I think you're going to have to trade up pretty far, to be honest. And that's okay with me. Sandin Pellikka is one of the few guys that I would be willingly trading up for in this draft. It's him, Matthew Wood, and depending on Zach Benson falls, I would trade up for those guys. Like, that's just how much I like Sandin Pellikka. And I do agree with you, Zach, at number 9, you need to go forward. There are so many star caliber forwards in this draft, and I've been thinking about different scenarios for this draft and what is going to happen at number 9. Pretty much every scenario leads me to Detroit being able to pick a potential star forward at number 9. So, as much as I do like Sandin Pellikka, and I still could see it happen, I don't know if I want him at number 9. I wouldn't be upset if he's picked at number 9. I'd still be excited, but I'd be a little surprised it's not a forward. But yeah, you can take one of those second round picks this year, package it up with 17, and go up to, I don't know, say 11 or 12, maybe 13 with Buffalo, depending on where he goes. I think if he's there at 13 and Buffalo's picking, you got to be on the phones there, and you got to go get him. So that's just my thoughts on him. I know we haven't talked about this player yet, but if you're dead set on a right D and you don't want to trade up, well, Lander's a good option at 17. He might still be there. I know that Zach mentioned him in our mock draft video, but of course that's not the subject of today's video, so I don't even really know why I brought it up. It's an option too. But yeah, I really like him. I think he'd be a great fit with the Red Wings. I think he needs to be the exception to the rule with how big our defensemen are and the type that we like to draft. I really have been thinking that you can't have all of the same thing. I think you need a little bit more variety on your blue line. You need a guy who is a big, intimidating defenseman in Simon Edvinsson. I mean, he'll have offense, but he's going to prioritize defense more. And you need a guy like a puck-moving D-man, offensive D-man, like Sandin Pellikka. I think that's a great decor right there.
That was the player that I missed. I was like, how did I miss Edvinsson? Yeah, I would put Pellikka with Edvinsson at that point. If you still had Jake Wallman, you're definitely keeping him with Mo Seider for sure. But yeah, we'll touch on Willander in a different episode, but yes, I do think that you're not taking Axel Sandin Pellikka at 9. You can pray and hope that he'll be there at 17. Do I think that's going to happen? Most likely not. Would I move up in the draft to take him? If the cost was a second round pick, yeah, okay. It's probably going to be more than that, depending on how far you're going to move up. But the two teams that I think that I could see taking him is definitely going to be either, well, you mentioned Buffalo, Leslie, but I think Vancouver, honestly, at pick number 11, I think is when they pick. I think that that's a prime player and spot that the Vancouver Canucks would pick right then and there, because they have Filip Hronek now, but I don't think that they're going to keep him long term, to be honest with you guys. So I think that Filip Hronek is a stopgap for him until they figure out that issue. and that could be Sandin Pellikka. And we know how Vancouver works. They'll trade that pick if we really want it. And it'll be great. So let's go ahead and move on to the next player, which is Colby Barlow. Colby Barlow, date of birth, February 14th, 2005, 18 years old. Position, left wing, shoots left, 6'1", 187 pounds. And I didn't say this about Axel Sandin Pellikka. I do think that he's picked anywhere between 8 and 15. But talking about Colby Barlow, I think it's pretty similar. I think it's anywhere from like 8 to 15 range. A lot of people have him really high. This year in the OHL for the Owen Sound Attack, he was the captain of that team in 59 games. He put up 46 goals, 33 assists, 79 points. I mean, this guy knows how to rip the puck. I mean, 49 or 46 goals. That's a lot. I'll let you guys take over so you guys don't hear too much of my voice once again. So why don't you start with this one, Derek?
Oh, I'll jump into this guy and I'll switch it up a little bit. I'm going to start with what he is not the best at instead of what obviously Zach stated already, his wonderful shooting abilities. So we'll jump into it right now with Colby Barlow. Great player. I project him going anywhere from 10 to 15. I narrowed it down pretty close there. I just don't see him going any later than 15 really in the draft just because of his goal scoring abilities. But with his other aspects that might push him back a little bit is definitely his worst attribute, but not by far bad, would be his skating. He's just not that fast of a guy. He has the speed when it calls for it in certain situations, but just not all outright just great on his feet, not the greatest edge work at all. Something he would definitely have to improve on. Again, he's a young guy, like we have to say about all these people. They have a lot of room to improve, and that's probably one of his biggest attributes right now that I think that he has to work on. And then what the other areas would probably be his passing, not, like we said, goal scorer. That's probably going to be his primary role in the NHL. Not a heavy passer. Again, he can do it when it calls for it. Not the worst in the world, but just nothing too great yet. Mostly a shooter, just sets it up. I'd say whoever gets him, just set him up well. Put him in front of the net. Treat him kind of like an Ovechkin. But unlike Ovechkin, in this sense, this guy can actually score from pretty much anywhere on the ice if you give him the puck. So he's a lot more dangerous in that aspect. Which brings us just right back around to what Zach wanted to say, his shooting capabilities. If I had to rate these guys, I'd give them a 9 out of 10 just because of how good, how quick, how hard this shot is from this kid. Anywhere in the ice, top of the circle, bottom of the hash marks, wherever he is at, he will snipe that. He will reach out the back of the net and shoot out like a missile. It's crazy to see what this guy can do at that age right now, especially just like being this young. I mean, granted, he does have some height. He does have some weight to him. That's good for his age. I feel like he's probably exactly where he needs to be for his position right now coming into the NHL. And I think someone like, I don't know, the Capitals who have an Ovechkin but could use another goal scorer here in the near future because Ovechkin's getting kind of old. I'd say that might be a nice little pick to replace him in like 2 years when he's fully like brought up into the NHL. And the fact with his size, like I'd say his puck control not the greatest either, but with his size, he does a lot better at just making people fall off the puck because they can't push him off. You don't really need to have that stick handling capability and that silky smooth mitts when you're just a big guy and no one can push you off the puck. If you lean into it and you just drive the net, that's all you really need. And especially like him, he's good at it. So that ends up getting those good plays, making him have that good control. And with his compete, let's be honest, this dude is just rock solid. I'd say he's a good solid 200-foot player. He loses the puck. He floats down the ice back to find that person who lost the puck and nails him. Like, he does the work he needs to do out there on the ice for both sides of this ice. Like, it's beautiful to watch. I know I'm ranting on about him, but for all his highlights I've watched so far and the clips I've seen, Colby Barlow is one of my favorite players in the draft right now just from the intensity that he brings to the ice. It's great to watch. I mean, if you need someone to, make these great plays to someone who needs to shoot or score goals, I want to grab him. But if you need someone to score you goals, Why not a Colby Barlow?
And there's a reason why he's ranked pretty highly too right now. I mean, granted, the points don't really pop out. I mean, 59 games, 79 points, like that's 20 more points like than you would per game, you know. So, yeah, I think that this is a prime pick for any GM. I think any GM would be happy with this guy. Honestly, this just screams like it was like when we drafted Dylan Larkin, and once we drafted him, the announcers or the commentators, they were like, he's going to be a captain someday. Colby Barlow could be that. I mean, just like you were saying, Derek, his compete and his leadership that he brings.
He already is one.
Right. No.
I was about to say he is the
Right.
captain.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. He very may well be one in the NHL one day. Just like how like they said about Dylan Larkin. And granted, like I said, the points don't pop out right now, but if he just works on those things that Derek said, the skating you can work on, he could be that guy. He could be a really good player. And this is a prime player that GMs love. They just love the players that are the rat rings and that just come in and grind day in and day out. Yes, Derek.
I forgot to mention this sweet little tidbit that I literally have on my second line underneath how tall his weight and where he is on the line. Just to throw this little statistic out there, in the league he got 79 points in, the OHL Coaches Poll for 22-23 ranked him in number 1 for 3 different spots as well. Best in shot, hardest shot, and most dangerous in the goal area, which is literally the entire circumference underneath the top of the circle. So, again, another aspect to throw in his goal scoring category.
And that's something that the Red Wings desperately need is goal scoring, especially on the 5-on-5. But I'm sure if you put him on the power play, he's ripping it like Obi does. So yeah, is this a player that you could see the Red Wings taking at 9? For me, probably not. But I'll let Leslie go on and talk about Colby Barlow a little bit before I go any further because I kind of forgot he hasn't said his spiel yet either. Sorry, buddy.
Love you, buddy.
No, you're all good, dude. Yeah, I think if you're gonna go center at number 9, which I kind of would prefer the Wings to do that, I think that Colby Barlow should be your winger down there at number 17. And honestly, if he's gone, which there's a good chance he will be gone, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think he's getting past Pittsburgh or Nashville or Calgary, which are all ahead of the Red Wings. I just don't see that happening. But if he's there, that goal scoring upside is what you absolutely need to be buying on. Sorry, let me get my notes up here. I don't know why I closed them out here. The primary source of those 46 goals comes from his wrister. It is a very, very fast wrister. It's not super strong. Like, he's not going to be shooting holes through the goalie, but he gets it there very, very quickly, snaps it home before anybody even knows he's taking a shot, and he has very good shot selection, so it usually goes where he's aiming, which is really good because he can kind of score from everywhere and in pretty much any method. He's actually a really good passer too. I did see some highlights where he's making a very crispy pass through a defender. I did see one where he was behind the net and did a no-look pass to one of his teammates. That was pretty cool to see. You know, I got a slight chub going when I saw that one. That was pretty cool. And he is a very fierce competitor. There's a reason he's captain for that team in Owen Sound. He will run through a brick wall, and not only that, he will get his teammates to run through a brick wall with him. So definitely a lot to like there. Everything that I listed off is what the Red Wings need, and he fits the mold that the Red Wings are looking for. So at 17, if he's there, that's a really good target there. I did mention my guys I'd like to trade up for. I don't necessarily think that Barlow is one of them. I guess it would kind of depend on what the price is. I wouldn't really mind parting with one of our seconds this year and the 17 pick for him. I guess that when I think about it, that's not a very steep price to pay. So maybe he is one of those guys I would do that for. And the thing about him that really confuses me is I just said he's a competitor, but he's also not super strong. I've seen him get knocked off pucks a lot, which I don't really understand how you can be a competitive player and then also have that happen to you at the same time. But I don't know. Maybe that's just a product of him being at the age that he is. I know he is a bigger kid at 6'1", but I'd like to see him be a little bit more physical before he starts playing at the NHL level. He's also a little sloppy with the puck. So when he's trying to skate out of transition from the other end, it doesn't really always go that well. And when he receives a pass, sometimes he doesn't get it cleanly. He has to do like a couple of stick handles before it settles down on his stick. So to me, when he gets in the NHL, I kind of just see him being like a slot shooter, like almost like a slot receiver where you just put him on the other side of the ice on the power play. You find an open pass to him. He one times at home. That kind of, when I think about it, I think that's how he's going to score most of his goals in the NHL. I've been kind of sitting here trying to rack my brain about who I could best compare him to in the NHL. To me, he kind of reminds me of a certain player who is in the Stanley Cup Finals right now, Jonathan Marchessault. I think that he is a really good shooter, and we've seen how Marchessault plays. He is a fierce competitor out there. That is a dude that you don't want to be in a scrum with, and every time he scores a goal, he's celebrating. The whole building's celebrating. His teammates are mobbing him, and he's also the first to go over to one of his other teammates when they score. So just a real solid team guy. I think that's a really good comparison right there. I would really like him for the Red Wings. I think he fits their scheme. He brings the biggest need that they're lacking in scoring. And I don't think it would take him very long to get to the NHL level. Maybe 2 years. Don't really know. But I like him a lot. I think he's mature enough to play pretty soon. And he should fit in nicely as a second-line winger, maybe even a third-line winger. We'll see. He's got a little competition there from Soderblom and Mazur. So hard to really know where he'd slot in, but I think he'd be a really good winger prospect for us.
Yeah. At 9, like I said, I wouldn't take him at 9. But this is exactly an Yzerman type of player. I mean, that's the type of players that he wants. He wants hard, competitive guys who bring leadership to the game. And like I said, we just need more goal scoring, especially on the 5-on-5. But I do really think that he would thrive a lot more on the power play. I do like his stick handling, but he does need to work on his puck control, kind of like what Leslie said. And that's like when he's receiving the pucks, definitely entering into the zone. Or at least making the transition. Yeah, it's just a little sloppy sometimes, he's kind of got to corral it. But, I mean, we just keep on going back to the shot. The shot is just insane. He's just really good at getting it off quickly. It's so hard. But the one thing that scares me the most, and you guys mentioned the skating. The skating, yeah, that does scare me, but that's something you can work on. But the other thing that scares me is that we drafted a player who also had one of the hardest shots in the draft, who was Teemu Pulkkinen, who never really ended up working out for the Red Wings. And he went into the AHL and he delivered the hardest shot for the competition that they did for their All-Star game. And it was like 100-something miles per hour. So that would be one thing that I'm nervous about. But I do think that, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know what the OHL rules are, if he has to play one more year or not, or if he has to do kind of like what Rasmussen had to do, where it was either he played in his league or he made that jump. So do I think he can make the NHL right away? No. But if you can bring him into the AHL, I do think that he is a prime candidate to make it into the AHL. It doesn't say that he's going to college. It really doesn't say anything what he's doing for next season. So I think he's probably still waiting to see whatever team picks him and what they want to do with him. So, but in terms of picking at 17, if he's there, I would take him. I would. Like I said, the goal scoring, we need goal scoring. We need more 5-on-5 goal scoring. Him with his shot, if he's going to be in the net front, kind of like how Derek said, it's almost like having Michael Rasmussen and Alex Chason had a baby. It's Colby Barlow. He looks like a man already. If you guys look at his picture, I love his mustache.
Thank you for saying that, because I looked at him early. I'm like, there's no way this guy's 17. And I looked at him again. I'm like, no. That's too much facial hair. I did not have that.
If I saw this man on the streets, I'd assume he's older than me, and I'm 27. So that's how old this guy looks.
Yeah, and that just
He's taller than me
I mean,
now.
the
so-
looks, it really doesn't matter. But I mean, like, you look at him, yeah, and you probably talk to him, and you're like, wow, you're probably really mature, aren't you? And like, like in terms of like him as an overall human being, and then what he does on the ice. I mean, well, I don't even know what else to say because I feel like that we've already said it. But if you had to move up to pick 15 to take him because you think that he might not be there at 17, and all that is the 43rd overall pick, which is their last second round pick, I'm doing that. I would do that. I really would. I don't think that we need 3 second round picks. But I do think that that's probably what it would take is to move up those 2 spots. Would you guys move up those 2 spots to give up a second round pick to get Colby Barlow?
Just giving up. You say 1 second?
It would
round
be
pick?
our 3rd second round pick, so the 33rd or 43rd overall pick.
Yeah, heck yeah, I do that. That's really not that much to give up, honestly. If you have 2 in a row, you're still picking.
And then even with those 2 second round picks that you still have, you could still take those and you can move up into the first round if you really wanted to, get a late first round. And if somehow like a Lucas Dragicevic fell or like a Willander fell, there you go. There's your right-handed shooting defenseman right there. You got 2 top forward players, which is what we desperately need. We need help at center, we need help at left wing, and we need defensive help. So there you go. That solves that problem. So if we can make it work somehow, I'm not exactly sure. I would have to look who picks that number 15, but Izzy, Steve, my man, here comes the bone,
I
baby.
believe that's Nashville. Who picks at
Nashville's
15.
definitely
Make it happen.
Nashville's definitely a team that I could see trading. I think that they definitely need a lot more draft picks. They're definitely in that rebuild mode. They're kind of in the similar situation as the Flyers, it seems like, where they might be trying to retool, but also trying to do a rebuild at the same time. I got nothing else.
Yeah, Barry Trotz also kind of has indicated that he wants his staff to make some swings, and I think that could mean that he's willing to do some deals at the draft. I think he's going to be kind of trying to do all sorts of crazy stuff to put some life back into Nashville and kind of revive that franchise. So they're definitely a possibility. I mean, you could even maybe trade up 1 spot with Calgary. I think Calgary's also another team that needs a whole bunch of draft picks because where are they going to go from here? They missed the playoffs, and it doesn't really look like they're going to be
down
a competitive team anytime soon. I mean, they have some good players, but I don't really know. So there's options at the draft for sure.
Final thoughts on Colby Barlow?
Straight up, I'd take him. Anywhere else? Probably not.
I think his nickname in the NHL should be Colby Jack because he goes top cheddar with those goals.
Okay, Leslie.
Those are 2 different types of cheeses, so that doesn't really make sense. But Colby Jack,
You stayed in the cheese family.
Spicy.
I love it.
Loving it.
He's very spicy.
All right. I think that's about it. We're done, boys. Good job today. Another long episode, but that's okay. We know that you fans, the watchers, the viewers, you love watching our beautiful faces and listening to our beautiful voices. They might not be beautiful, but you get what I'm saying here. Yeah, look at Derek. Look at him.
Look at that face.
All right, boys. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up with some final thoughts. Leslie, you can go last since you have your little rant that you probably want to go on. So, Derek, I'll go first. My final thoughts are, let's go Red Wings. I want good draft picks. I'm excited for the NHL draft. I got someone to watch my dogs for me. That's great. Shout out to you, JR. I love you.
Sweet.
And I can't wait for my friends to come visit me this weekend. It's going to be one hell of a time for sure. So let's tear up Holy Toledo together, boys. Yeah. So final thoughts, boys. Go ahead. Derek.
I'll go before Leslie's rant. Let's go Red Wings, as Zach said. We only have 2 weeks until the draft. Let's see some magic from Yzerman. F the Penguins, because even when it's not directly at the Red Wings, they're still messing stuff up for everybody in the league right now, of course, and we won't even see the implications of that, that one game that they lost to Chicago for a very long time. It can go on for years. Just remember
It really
that.
could.
It's like the Wayne Gretzky trade that Zach was
Haven't
talking
seen
about
the
that
last
just
of it.
ended a couple years ago. This could go on for the same amount of time. We'll find out. And we are going to have a lot of fun. JR, shout out to you, buddy. We'll watch Land of the Lost together. I know it's your favorite movie for when we live together. I got you, buddy. I know you're not watching this, but I'm going to send this clip just to you,
Yes, he
just
is.
so you have a terrible time on Saturday with me. Love you.
JR's our biggest fan.
All right, Leslie, let's hear your final thoughts on your rant there, buddy. Let's hear some golf, buddy.
Well, so okay. So yesterday, the PGA did have a big merger here with Live Golf. And it's really quite despicable. I don't know how many people listening to this podcast are golf fans. Probably not a whole lot of you, because that has nothing to do with hockey. Maybe a lot of you are, because the Red Wings are golfing right now. So maybe the Wings who are golfing right now will be interested in hear this golf talk. But
Oh, buddy, trust
yeah,
me.
so basically,
Golf translates really well with hockey. So anyone who likes hockey
actually does.
plays golf.
Yeah, I don't even know why I said that, because it's actually like the second most popular sport for hockey players. So, yeah, but basically ever since Liv came around, they were offering all these big name guys hundreds of millions of dollars, just obscene amounts of money. And everybody who took that money, if you're a golf fan, you were probably disgusted with them, and you were just not going to be a fan of them anymore. They took a bunch of money to go play for a golf league that's not even televised, and they are now enemies of you. And what happens? PGA just merges with Liv, and then all of the guys who were loyal to the PGA, like Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, there's a whole bunch of guys. Tiger was very loyal with PGA too, and they turned down insane amounts of money. I think Tiger was offered like $300 million. He can barely even walk anymore, let alone play golf.
Put that one to aspect right there.
How many of these golfers are feeling lied to and cheated by the PGA for sticking up for them when they didn't even have to? They could have taken this money, and instead of doing that, they missed out on generational wealth. I mean, if they took this money, their grandkids' children wouldn't have to work. That's how much money they're being offered. And the commissioner, Jay Monahan, probably is the most hated commissioner now behind Gary Bettman. I mean, Gary Bettman could go out and do the worst thing for the sport of hockey, and it probably wouldn't come close to whatever they did with PGA and Liv. It's really quite despicable. I think the silver lining here is it should offer a really good product if you're a golf fan. Now you have all of the best golfers in the entire world under one umbrella, and whenever you're watching the next tournament, the next majors, they'll all be playing. So I guess that's one thing to look at. This Saudi money should mean that a lot of the winnings for the PGA are going to go up. But also, not even if you're Rory or Spieth or anything like that, if you're one of like the lower golfers who like just barely makes the cut and you finish every tournament like plus 12 or whatever it is, and you're taking home $50,000 a round, you could have made like 50 million and been set for life. And now you're going to make pennies on the dollar. So really just terrible. To relate this in hockey terms, this is like if the NHL merged with the KHL. It's just, that would be the dumbest thing ever. It would be absolutely insane and completely out of left field, something that nobody would ever think of. And honestly, it would be a pretty good comparison, because just like Saudi Arabia, Russia is a very problematic country. I don't really want to get too much into that, but yeah, it would be a very bad look for the NHL in general, just like it is a PGA. So I just wanted to bring that up. Maybe no one's going to care about that, but if there are golf fans who watch our videos, I'm sure you guys have been waiting for our take on that and just kind of seeing where we stand on those issues. Because I really hope it doesn't come down to it, but the Saudis have more money than God. They could buy the NHL, they could buy the MLB, they could buy the NFL. You never know. I mean, golf might just be the start of this thing. So Yeah, very very crazy day for sports in general. Even if you don't watch golf, don't root for golf, don't know any of the names of the players I just listed off, it's still a pretty big day in the sports world. So there you go.
Final thoughts?
Mind blown by Leslie.
Yes. Final thoughts.
All right,
That's it.
everyone. Let's go ahead and close it off. We want to thank you all once again for joining us today. Wherever you're watching or listening to us, whether that's YouTube or Spotify, we still are trying to figure out how we can get on other platforms so you guys can enjoy listening and watching us. It makes that octopus grow a smile once again. So as always, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you are smashing that like button on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on Spotify so that way you get notified when the episodes drop, and you are rating us 5 stars. We really do appreciate it. So, boys, let's close it off. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye
Good
bye.
night. Well, it's good night for us. Good night, or good evening, or good morning. Bye, y'all.